Hello everyone, it's time for another deck profile, this time on a Yu-Gi-Oh deck profile. And I haven't done a Yu-Gi-Oh one for a while, and I am actually quite excited to do this because I was not expecting to do this deck profile at all, or never even built the deck until Age of Overlord was a thing. And that's because this is the Supreme King Dragon Zarc, the Supreme King deck. And I love the Dimension Dragons, but I never got the chance to build the deck because it was always weird to build it, even with the limited cards I got. So I just ended up never building the deck until Age of Overlord was a thing, where it made it into more of a complete archetype. And now with the new support, I just decided to build a deck. And with the new support, of course, we're gonna make things easier to summon Zarc himself. The whole deck revolves around Zarc. And of course, Dimension Dragons in a way, but it revolves around trying to get Zarc. But anyway, what do I think about the deck? It's just fun and cool. That's really all it is. Not meant to be competitive, but it's just cool that we finally just got the Supreme King stuff and just Zarc support after so long without Zarc support. But it wasn't exactly what I expected, a purified version, but hey, it's cool to see, and I just love it. But anyway, on with the deck. So of course, because this is a Dimension Dragon deck, I do run the Odd Eyes Pendulum Dragon because obviously it's going to be important for you to have. Next, the Astrograph Sorcerer or Magician, if you want to go with the Japanese one, because this one, the Pendulum Zone lets you change forms into its original base form, or depending on timeline reasons, technically not, but anyway. The main effect is that when a card is destroyed, you can special summon this card and then return one of the cards back to your field or hand. And the other part is that you can banish this card along with the other Dimension Dragons or like any of their other forms. As long as it says Pendulum, Synchro, Exceed, and Fusion Dragon in the name, you can use them as material from the hand, field, or graveyard to special summon the Zarc. And of course, that's why you run this. And it's not hard to search this out. And then to the new card, Supreme King Gate Magician, which has the effect is that Zarc cannot be banished by your opponent's card effects, and during the main phase you can destroy this card, and if you do, put one Supreme King Gate Pendulum monster from your hand or deck to the Pendulum Zone, and this is hard once per turn. Of course, that's very useful because your gates is the main scales that you want to be at. But the second effect is that if there's a Supreme King Gate in your Pendulum Zone, except itself, you can send one Pendulum Dragon, Exceed Dragon, Synchro Dragon, Fusion Dragon from your hand or extra deck to the graveyard to special summon this card from hand. Then if this card is special summoned, you can add one card that is the Supreme King Dragon Zarc card from your deck to your hand, except a spellcaster, and of course hard once per turn. Basically, it's your searcher, can special summon itself, and basically sets up your play because you can send one of your Dimension Dragons from deck or extra deck, that's basically just cheating your materials out, just to summon this card with another search. That's just overall very useful, which is why I run 3 of these. In which we go to Chronograph Sorcerer, which basically does the same thing as Astrograph Magician or Sorcerer. Destroy it to scale his original form, and then if this card is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can special summon from your hand, and then you can special summon another monster from your hand, and then you can banish this card you control along with your Dimension Dragons from your hand, field, or graveyard to special summon a Zarc. That's up to you, but it's just another way to get out your Zarc. And then we go to Supreme King Dragon Dark Worm, just 2 of these because on no more special summon, you can add one Supreme King Gate Pendulum monster from your deck to your hand, and if this card's in your graveyard while you control no monster, you can special summon this card and hard once per turn. And then Pendulum effect, you can, once per turn, if you control no monsters, you can place one Supreme King Gate Pendulum monster from your deck to your Pendulum Zone, but you cannot Pendulum summon for the rest of the turn except for dark monsters, which is a little restrictive, but you only do this for the searching. Continue off to the light version, Supreme King Dragon Lightworm, or Servant Dragon, just remember in the Japanese Servant Dragon. So Pendulum effect is that if a monster is special summoned and you control Zarc, along with another Pendulum monster, except during damage step, you can special summon this card, and then you can make this card's level and attribute either of this card or one Pendulum monster you control, and that can be very helpful, of course, and this is a tuner as well, which is another nice thing. But the monster effect is that if this card's almost special summon, you can add one Supreme King Servant Dragon, I'm going to do it that way, or Gate Pendulum monster from your extra deck to your hand. Then, immediately after you activate this effect, you can perform a Synchro or Exceed summon one Supreme King Dragon monster. What this means is that after you perform your search, you basically perform a Synchro or Exceed summon. That's up to you if you want to do it, and of course you have 2 targets for that effect. Unfortunately, it doesn't add Fusion. I wish it added Fusion so you can summon the Supreme King Servant Dragon Star Venom. but oh well. But anyway, the other effect is that a face-up pendulum monster you control is destroyed by battle or card effect. While this card is face-up in your extra deck, you can add this card back to your hand. And of course, each effect is hard once per turn. Just really good because it's basically another your searcher, special summon engine, and basically just get your stuff out. And then just for important cards, Supreme King's Gate 0 and Supreme King Gate Infinity. Scale 0-13, and this is why you need to run these. And these are searchable by so many means that it's just not hard to run one of them. And also because they're recyclable. You can only pendulum summon while you have nothing on the field. So just keep that in mind. Of course, their pendulum effect is related to Zarc, where basically if you have Zarc, you basically get so many benefits. It's insane. And just overall, you just have to run these because, yeah, they are very key to the deck. Finally, the last Supreme King card, Supreme King Servant Dragon Odd Eyes. It's just here because of the corrupted counterpart version. Unfortunately, it doesn't have Pendulum Dragon in the name, so that is unfortunate. I just run this because it's Supreme King and I want to run all the Dimension Dragons even as the Servant versions. And then for some more searching, Odd Eyes Revolution Dragon, because you can pay 500 life points and send this to the graveyard to basically add one of your Dragon Pendulum monsters from your deck to your hand, which you do have few targets. It's just more searching. And then I run one of each Magician version of the Supreme Magician version of each of the Dimension Dragon because it's just more targets that can count. I also run the Zarc version. For some reason, this is Perform of How. And then I run Harmonizing Magician, which basically lets you make plays, cannot be special summoned from an extra deck, which is unfortunate, and cannot be used as material other than with other magicians, which you do have other magicians, so that shouldn't be too hard. But when this card is pendulum summoned from hand, you can special summon one magician pendulum monster from your deck in defense, except itself, with its effects negated, and banish it when it leaves the field. It's just helpful to make some plays. And then more searching. Perform by Skullbat Joker, which lets you add Performer Pow or Magician Pendulum or Odd Eyes. And then finally the Time Gazer Magician for the Chronograph Sorcerer. So that's it for the monster lineup. To the spells, Wings of Light, which is a quick play searcher. During main phase, add one Supreme King Servant Dragon or one Supreme King Gate Pendulum monster from your deck to your hand, or if you control a Zarc, you can special summon it instead. That's why it's a quick play. But this is just overall really good because it's your searcher. And then I run the Duelist Alliance because it lets you add one Pendulum Name Pendulum monster or Pendulum Name spell and trap from your deck to your hand, and of course it's hard once per turn. It's just another way to get your stuff out, in which we go to Pendulum Call. Discard one card to add two Magician Name Pendulum monster different name to your hand, and until the end of the turn, Magician cards from your Pendulum Zone cannot be destroyed by card effects, but that's not really gonna happen. It's just here to get more Magicians out. And then we go to the new card, Pendulum Evolution, which you can shuffle one Pendulum monster from your hand into the deck to add one Pendulum monster with 2500 attack with a different name from your deck to your hand, which of course you got your Sorcerer, Gate Magician, Odd Eyes, so you have a few things. And then during the main phase, you can special summon a Pendulum monster from face down from your extra deck. And then during the main phase, if you special summon a Pendulum monster from face down from the extra deck, you can, and then immediately after you activate the effect, you Pendulum summon monsters. And then you can target one Zarc you control. This turn, it can attack all monsters your opponent controls once each. Of course, everything's hard once per turn. It's searchable, which is why I run one of. And two, it basically makes some of your plays, which is why it's also nice. And then finally, for some comeback play, Odd Eyes Fusion, just because it lets you summon Odd Eyes Vortex Dragon if you need it. And then, just for more ways to get your stuff out, your Foolish Burial cards. Finally, Soul of the Supreme King, where you can pay half your life points to summon Zarc and ignoring the summoning condition. But of course, it goes back to the extra deck during the end phase of the next turn. That's fine, because that's why Odd Eyes Archray Dragon exists, or Supreme King Celestial Dragon Archray Dragon. But anyway, that's the main part of this card, but it has the other additional part where when your opponent activates a spell or card or effect, so you can banish this card from your graveyard and one Zarc from face up from your monster zone. Special summon one of each Dimension Dragon from your hand, deck, extra deck, and or graveyard. So basically, you summon Zarc once, you can use this card again to summon back the 4 individual parts. Or in some cases, you would just tribute it for the Archray Dragon if you want to. And then we got Soul of the Supreme Celestial King, which is another new card where you contribute one spellcaster pendulum monster with 25 original attack. You have 2 targets to summon one Zarc from your extra deck by banishing its materials from your hand, deck, extra deck, and or graveyard. But the effects is negated unless if you use each of the Dimension Dragon as material, and they are currently banished. Basically, it's just another way to summon Zarc, but this one is just basically the anime version of actually doing it, letting you use anywhere from your deck. And then finally, Miracle of the Supreme King, which is another new card where when you control a Zarc, activate one of these effects. And of course, you can only activate one of these listed effects per turn. Destroy one Zarc you control, special summon one Odd Eyes Pendulum monster, or one Light Supreme King Zarc from your deck or extra deck, ignoring the summoning condition. AKA summon the new purified version that you see in the playmat. But the second part of the list of effects is that place one face-up Pendulum monster from your extra deck into your Pendulum zone. And of course, the third part of the effect is that you can set one quick play spell from your deck. AKA there's could be few targets, your searcher. So that's it for the main deck. On to the extra deck. The most important card of the deck, Supreme King Dragon Zarc, which I run 2 copies of. The extra deck summoning method, other than links your opponent controls, cannot activate their effects on the pendulum effect, by the way. And once per turn, when your opponent adds a card from their deck to your hand, except from draw phase, you can destroy that card, which can be a bit nasty, and this is doable. And then when it's summoned, and it must be summoned by this means, you destroy your opponent's field. You summon a 4K beat stick, nuke your opponent's board, and then it cannot be destroyed by your opponent's card effect and cannot be targeted by your opponent's card effect. So it has that big strong protection as well. And then when this card destroys a monster by battle, you can special summon one Supreme King Servant Dragon from your deck or extra deck to the field. And if this card is destroyed, you can put it to the pendulum zone. So basically, it's just big, strong, giant dragon. It's a godlike dragon anyway, but it's just big and strong. And I just love it. And it looks cool. Continuing off, so first off, let's get to the new form of Odd Eyes Archray Dragon, which is the purified form, and the playmat shows it. Unfortunately, it doesn't retain the title of Supreme King Celestial Dragon, and I don't know why it's Odd Eyes, but then the artwork does clearly show 2 different eyes, so I guess why. But anyway, the pendulum effect, and it's scale 13. If you have 2 cards in your pendulum zone, you can special summon this card and then apply this effect. Shuffle 1 card from your pendulum zone to the deck, then if it was added from extra deck, you can special summon it, ignoring summon condition. So basically, it's another Zarc that can summon itself because the same materials as Zarc, use one of each Dimension Dragon, and it still counts as Zarc. And you can summon it by the fusion summoning method, or 2, attributing a Supreme King Dragon Zarc, the dark version. Because of course this is light, so otherwise you're going to be some little loopholes right there, but you contribute the dark version to summon this one. Unfortunately, this one is a more setup card because if this card is special summoned from the extra deck, you can place one pendulum monster from your deck to your pendulum zone, and then if this card was destroyed from the monster zone, put it in the pendulum zone. So it doesn't really do much other than set up your plays, but considering that you got temporary Zarc sometimes, this can be very helpful, and also the pendulum effect can be pretty nice. And then before we continue to the other monsters, you have to run the remaining Dimension Dragons. You have to run one of each because they retain the name and this is the purpose of it, and also this is the base form of each of them, so obviously I just run it. And then to finish off the fusion monster, the Odd Eyes Vortex Dragon because of Odd Eyes Fusion. And then to the Exceed, we got Supreme King Servant Dragon Clearwing because on Synchro Summon, you can destroy all monsters your opponent controls, and once per turn during damage calculation, if you battle the monster, you can destroy that monster. If you do, inflict damage equal to that destroyed monster's attack. And then if this card's in your graveyard, you contribute 2 Supreme King Servant Dragon monsters from your graveyard to special summon this card from the graveyard. This is just very powerful. Unfortunately, as you can tell, I do not have Supreme King Servant Dragon Star Venom because that card is banned. And then to finish off, Synchros, Odd Eyes Meteor Burst Dragon, because it just helps. And then we go to Supreme King Servant Dragon Dark Rebellion, which has the ability to, once per turn before damage calculation, if this card battles the opponent's monster, you can detach one material from this card to change its attack to 0, and this card gains the attack equal to the drained attack. And then during the battle phase quick effect, you can return this card back to the extra deck to special summon 2 Supreme King Servant Dragons and or Gate Pendulum monsters from your extra deck in defense. Unfortunately, it doesn't have the drain to 0 like in the anime, but basically retains that the special part of Dark Rebellion, but even stronger, Treason Discharge. And then to finish stuff up, Odd Eyes Rebellion Exceed Dragon, Another form of Odd Eyes Dark Rebellion Fusion, where during the main phase you can special summon this card from the Pendulum Zone, then you can attach one dark monster from your graveyard to this card as material, and of course hard once per turn. Not too bad, it could revive itself, which has the main effect where you can also Pendulum summon this card as a level 7, and then of course this card cannot be used as material for Exceed Summon if this card during the turn it was Exceed Summon because of Pendulum Exceed methods. Once per turn you can detach one material from this card, then target 2 monsters your opponent controls with 3000 or less attack, destroy them. You can only use each effect hard once per turn, and of course this card destroyed, you can summon, put it in the Pendulum Zone. It's just nice, it's just another rank 7 play that you can do, and luckily it just needs 2 level 7 Pendulum monsters and doesn't have the Pendulum Exceed restriction by having Exceed monster as material, so that's pretty nice, so I just run this. And then we go to Time Star Magician, just so we could get your Magician materials out because those Magicians count as basically your Dimension Dragons. And then we go to Beyond the Pendulum, where when Link summon, you can pay 1,200 life for some reason, add 1 Pendulum monster from your deck to your hand, and for the rest of the turn, unless you Pendulum summon after this effect resolves, you cannot activate monster effects, and any effects in your Pendulum Zone are negated. So basically you just have to perform a Pendulum summon for this. And it's your Searcher, so it's not too bad. Because of Pendulum summon rulings restrictions, you do need to use this. And then, if 2 monsters with different original levels are Pendulum summoned at the same time, that this card points to, you can target 2 cards in the field and destroy them. Helpful sometimes, but of course this is just to make your plays. And finally, to the evolved form of it, kind of wish that this has 2500 attack just to match your other monsters. Exceed the Pendulum, which is a Link 3, gains 100 attack for every Pendulum card this card points to. And then you can use this following effect once per turn. If this card's Link summoned, you can add 1 face-up Pendulum monster from your extra deck to your hand. And during the main phase, quick effect, you can special summon 1 Pendulum monster from your hand or graveyard in defense, with levels between the 2 scales. It's just overall not too bad. It's just further Link play if you need it, but overall pretty decent and basically sets up more plays. So that's it for my new updated deck of my Supreme King deck for Zarc. What do you guys think of it? Overall, this deck is just fun, not meant to be all competitive, but it's so nice to see like good Pendulum stuff again, especially for main characters, and I overall just like it, especially Zarc. I love Zarc design along with the Dimension Dragons, and I'm just glad that we saw this. And in a way, I'm glad to see a purified version of it, even though it wasn't exactly what I was expecting for Zarc, but I'm actually kind of glad to see it. We got more Supreme King support, which is nice, and it's just overall really cool. That's really all I have to really say about it. It's just a cool deck. That's why I just built the deck. And with the new support, I got more excited to even play it, so I decided to full on build the deck. And it's nice that we got a new Link monster and just the purified version. But other than that, there's really not much to say about it other than ask what other cards would you guys recommend. It is personal preferences. You can maybe decrease down the searchers, maybe run more other tech cards if you want. It's all up to you. You could even run a Chaos Engine because it's light and dark. So it is up to you if you want to do that as well. But other than that, there's really not much to say for it. Still waiting for Star Venom Supreme King Servant Dragon to get unbanned because I want to run all the Servant Dragon variants of the Dimension Dragons as well. But unfortunately, we didn't get that. Oh well. Just nice overall that I can play all the Dimension Dragons in the deck along with Zarc, similar to how you could do it with the Signer Dragons, but I'm not building Signer Dragons right now. But there's really not much more to say. It's just now easier to summon Zarc because of course more consistency support, and everything's still just cool as always. Kind of unfortunate that the purified version of Zarc is weaker than the original form, but I'm just guessing destruction going to creation. But anyway, other than that, that's it for this. See you all next time.